Welcome back and happy Monday, July 19th, 2021. I hope you had a great weekend. On the way in to work today, I was thinking about the story that the NFL has now announced that they're going to have two national anthems again before every football game in the new upcoming season. They're going to have the Star-Spangled Banner, which, as you know, is also a synonym for the American flag, and they're going to have the Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. As the New York Post put it earlier, social justice promotion this upcoming season will include on-field signage, player helmet decals, and in-stadium public service announcements. For week one of the preseason, end zones will be painted to include the messages "End Racism" and "Inspire Change." Might be interesting if they had some player, perhaps from another country, perhaps not, put a comma there and saying so that the end zone would say "End Racism in China." Or perhaps it would be interesting if someone put a comma after "Inspire Change" and wrote Cuba, places that truly need something like social justice promotion and every other kind of justice. I found it a little interesting that all the signage, all the social justice promotion during the NBA playoffs has gone away. You don't see it. You don't see it when you have the most maximum of audience, I would think, for NBA games. And I find that curious. But the NFL is going back to having two different national anthems, one for whites and one for blacks. Lovely. Just the very purpose of a nation and an anthem, isn't it? Just the very purpose of sports. See, the idea behind sports carries with it a great deal. A great deal. Obviously, fairness and competition. Men and women competing against themselves as well as against their fellow teammates, as well as against their opponents in various capacities. But all under the rubric that there have to be rules and that are fair. And for the fans, the spectators, whether you be a season ticket holder or someone who watches on TV or listens perhaps on the radio or elsewhere, you root for your team because for some reason you have an affinity for it. And teams unite people. Anyone who understands anything about the culture of sports understands that's why cities hold parades after victories of their teams. Anyone who understands the culture of sports understands that's why there are designated bars and establishments, dining establishments, dedicated to certain teams so that people can unite. The whole purpose of these community athletic and professional athletic engagements for the spectators, for the non-players and the non-owners, is to unite around something and to engage in what there's no better word for it than in German, Gemütlichkeit, the kind of social cohesion that, yes, to use a threadbare word now, unites people. Unites people. The notion that there would be two national anthems is a notion that is not new and should not be seen as new to Americans. Those who have real history textbooks in the 8th grade, or those who have real civics or history textbooks in the 12th grade, will have read about a case that you know almost by rote to have stood for a noxious doctrine, and that doctrine is the doctrine of separate but equal based on racial categorization. All of you know that as the Plessy v. Ferguson case. Most of you know that it was overruled by Brown versus Board of Education, at least the general holding that facilities cannot be considered equal if they are separate or segregated based on race. What's interesting to me about that? a couple of things. First of all, as anyone who's had a real history textbook knows, the person arguing Brown versus Board of Education and later rewarded with a seat on the Supreme Court was the lead counsel for the NAACP, a man named Thurgood Marshall. In his brief to the Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall wrote that distinctions by race are so evil, so arbitrary, and so invidious that a state bound to defend the equal protection of the laws must not invoke them in any sphere. Distinctions by race are so invidious they should not be invoked in any public sphere. Hard to get to a more public sphere than something called itself the National Football League. Why don't, if they're going to have tributes to the nation based on race, why don't they have teams based on race? Why not have a team for blacks and a team for whites now that we have a statement of honor and support for the country based on race? One of the most important things about the national anthem when it's played before an athletic game, a professional athletic game, is it always honors those who fought for that Star-Spangled Banner, those who always wore the flag of the United States in military engagements, fighting for all our freedom. That's why you have military flyovers at so many of these national anthem performances. Are we now going to say that those people who we are honoring must be honored based on and according to their race? Were they fighting based on or anything according to their race, or were they fighting for every single American, not just black, not just white, not just Asian, but Republican, independent, vegetarian, and every other kind of American you can think of? That is what a national anthem is. It is a national statement of unity. We don't have to get into debates over whether nationalism is a good thing or not, but when you think about the concept of nationalism, it is based on unified support for a nation. Rich Lowry put it this way: a nation is to a large extent defined by its symbols and associations, the holidays, the rituals, the heroes, the history, what Lincoln called our mystic chords of memory. That's how a nation tells others what it is. It's how it tells itself what it is, and it tells everyone in the world, as well as in its own country, what it aspires to be, what its priorities should be. For all those right now who think our nation is divided, think just a moment and take just a step back to consider how good a solution it will be to bridge the divide by having two different national anthems based on the race of those professing support for the country. Blacks support the country this way, whites support the country this way. Now, the question begs itself: will whites be able to stand up with the African Americans or blacks and sing their national anthem? Will blacks be allowed to stand up and sing the now white national anthem? And of course, the answer will be yes, but then the question then becomes, why have two? Are we not a United States? And was the purpose to unite the states, or was the purpose to unite us as a people? We, the people, we who hold these truths to be self-evident. We didn't talk about states' rights. We talked about individual and Americans and human beings' rights in our founding. And we didn't talk about the rights based on your race. It does beg a question, secondarily, that Dennis Prager was talking about on his show earlier today. If you have, in fact, a literal racist watching a sporting event or a professional athletic event and is privileged enough to see that at that event there is a statement in the end zone that says, "End racism," is that going to do it? Will we have our mission accomplished moment yet? I say this all in the wake of the news that Fans of Major League Baseball at the Nationals game against the Padres fled the stadium when 3 people were shot 2 days ago. Fled it. Something tells me getting a hand on that violence will do a lot more for race relations, life, and America than dividing the country further by saying I support the country this way based on my race and I don't support it that way based on yours. I'm Seth Leibson, 602-5080-960. We'll be right back.